How's it going, folks? Welcome back to another episode of Mentor Moments. My name is Brayton Wooters, one of your co-hosts, alongside Dr. Michael Keener. On Mentor Moments, we take the time to interview counseling professionals and personal mentors. As you know, this season we've been chatting a lot about leadership, technology, career development, and counseling as a profession.
Having people along the way going, "You're so silly, you're going to be a great counselor," and kind of guiding me toward that. And now it's my passion to show up in people's lives when they're confused or when they're not sure in which direction and see what they're capable of.
We hope you enjoy this episode of Mentor Moments and keep tuning in.
On this awesome episode of Mentor Moments in season 3, if you can believe it already, we have Heather Hanvy. Heather, tell us a little bit about you. What do our listeners need to know? Sort of a brief history of your career.
Oh, brief. That is not my gift set, but let's see. I guess I would start by saying I'm a certified rehabilitation counselor, and I'm also a licensed professional counselor in the state of Missouri. Career. I currently am an educational support counselor for a school district. And so I function a lot like a crisis counselor. And I also am a private practice counselor in a private practice group. And I teach mental health first aid, or youth mental health first aid, actually, for Flourish St. Louis, which is a nonprofit who specializes in trying to provide information and services to different under-resourced communities.
I think our listeners would love to maybe compare and contrast the private practice versus the work you do in the schools.
In the schools, I function as part of the educational team. So though I do see students or work with families, it's really it's not ongoing counseling services. So I work more as they come in, we talk about what's going on, and then I will guide them through that moment. I will communicate with families. I will resource them, make sure that they have individual therapy if they need it, make sure I'm teaching the family different skills or helping them access resources. So a little bit of like a social work sort of hat. I'm also part of our special education team, and so I help service children with disabilities in the school setting. So I might be called to help understand the mental health aspects of their disability, or help teams understand how to best support them in the class. And in that part of the role, I attend their individual education plan meetings, and I can do some testing. I do our anxiety testing for some of our students. And I just kind of function with the team. I'm on the crisis team in the building, and I help kind of think through how we respond to different things, whether it's a child who's having just a moment of big dysregulation, or if it's someone who's having suicidal thoughts, or if it's an actual, a big building-wide crisis. So I'm part of that team. And then in private practice, I chose because I love teamwork. I love being part of a team. And so I was always really nervous about going into private practice because I felt like that was such an isolating experience in my mind. That's how I had pictured it. And so I was really excited. A colleague of mine from the school district had retired, and she had moved into private practice, and she invited me to come and talk to the owner of the practice I'm in. And they really work as a team. So we have weekly team meetings where you can come in and you can staff cases and you can talk through things. They provide ongoing continuing education credits for the staff, so we can sign up to be a part of that and learn together. And I would say the difference there is it is the ongoing counseling. So I get a client and we create a treatment plan together, and I see them for counseling across their treatment. And then I will work with families. I will work with, I've got some marriage counseling. I've got some adults. I've got some teenagers. So it's kind of just a spectrum of different age groups and stuff.
Our listeners, they have inquiring minds. They like to compare and contrast it. The reason why I say that, and why you're an ideal guest, is I think we have a mean, they're hiring more and more counselors to work in the school system, and I guess I'm meaning more of the crisis counselors, because obviously there's the career guidance counselors that have always been part of the school. And let's, again, from our students, more and more of our students like want to explore private practice and see sort of the flexibility, and whether it's full-time, part-time, evenings. And so it's just interesting, I think, to see how you're making it work and fit, and kind of our listeners can't see the smile on your face, but when you were describing these things, we could see you sort of being excited and smiling about sort of what you get to do, and how you get to work with people in your career.
Yeah, I will say I love all of my jobs. I am passionate about it. I love coming into the building. I love being a part of the teams. Even on the hardest day, I walk away and I'm excited to come back. I'm excited when summer's over and I get to come back. And private practice, I feel like it's just a different way to help people. So it's kind of fun to be back in the role of doing continuing counseling with people and really making sure that I'm my freshest at all the counseling interventions, and and just practicing it in a different way. And then teaching youth mental health first aid is just kind of cool. It just fills a different part of my bucket. Like, it's really a cool thing to be able to go and teach community members about mental health in general. And so I really like all of them fit like a different piece of me and allow me to just practice in different ways.
Yeah, for our listeners that aren't familiar with that idea of mental health first aid, what typically goes into something like that?
Yeah, so youth mental health first aid it's actually a worldwide course. And it is I really like it is a very laid out course. Every single person, you go through an extensive training to teach it. And then it is an 8-hour course that people sign up, and through it, they learn, like I teach the youth version. And so you're learning about what typical youth development looks like, what some, base level things for possibly emerging mental illness might look like in youth. And then you're talking through, like, how do you respond? How do you respond to a youth maybe who is just showing some signs of having some difficult times? And then kind of going all the way through, how do you respond to a youth in crisis? And how do you then route them to the people who are able to help? How do you route them to a counselor? How do you get them to emergency help if they're having a medical or a mental health emergency? And so it's really just helping community members. And then my favorite part is when they ask questions and getting to like really break it down and talk about the things that they're experiencing and that they're worried about, and helping them feel more prepared in their roles. A lot of times we're getting staff members in schools, or church members, or we're getting people who maybe are just really involved with their grandchildren or babysitting, and they just have questions.
Yeah, I that sounds like it would be incredibly helpful. I can think of so many clients that I've had that have reported like, oh, my friend is really struggling with this, and how many like just peer-to-peer interactions there are about mental health, and they just don't have the skills to help. So I really appreciate that is a program that you're pursuing. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. And they do have one now that's like, I teach adults how to respond, but now they have one that's teen to teen. So they're teaching teens how to respond too, for the exact same reason, because we see all types of teenagers that want to be helpful, but they don't have the skill set and the training, and they don't know how to self-care after they've helped someone, and they don't know when to seek help and what's a crisis level situation. So yeah, all of those.
Shifting gears a little bit, something that we chat quite a lot about on this podcast is career development, different stages, kind of where we find ourselves in that development in our careers. Where would you say you are?
I guess I would say maybe mid. I'm, a decade into actual outside of graduate school practice. So I would say mid. I came into this late. So I started out many, many years ago, like when I was, the age a lot of people go to college, wanting to be a teacher. And then I had just some life circumstances with some family things come up. And so I took a step back. And when I returned back into Maryville, and they sort of helped me find my path, or I would say maybe saw in me something I didn't see in myself yet and helped me find my way to Dr. Keener and helped me find my way to the program. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm just getting started. I have all kinds of ideas about the things that I'd like to do throughout the course of this. Does that answer it?
Yeah, and to me, you led right into the next. We go off script sometimes, but you led into our off script question. You kind of mentioned what's next, but is there like this milestone you want to accomplish before? What do you see as the next phase of your career?
That's such a good question because each thing fills a different bucket. Like I really enjoyed my time getting to be an adjunct and teach internship and practicum courses. And I enjoy teaching the youth mental health first aid. I think ideally, I'm going to stay in the school district for as long as I feel like I am being able to keep up with the pace and do it in a way where I'm showing up every day with the kind of energy that is needed. Then I see myself probably trying to do more teaching or more trying to find different programs or agencies that I can help educate, whether it be parents or whether it be community members, just that advocacy piece of teaching about mental health outside of our field. And then I think I'm just going to stay in private practice as long as people will continue to come and trust me with their stories and allow me into their lives. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, as we always do, to me, and maybe that's the rehab counselors in us, that we like to understand people's journeys and what they find meaningful. And again, there are so many, looking back at students and myself included, that maybe this was our second career or second path. Like we didn't obviously come to undergrad saying I'm going to be a counselor, and then just maybe the commonality of a lot of us coming from an education perspective or finding the same similar things, working with students as we do working with clients from a counseling, mental health, vocation perspective.
Yeah, I would say too, for me, I had those lived life experiences of having mental health sort of come into my life in a way where I had to learn a lot as a family member, as a parent. I had to learn the educational system from a parent needing to get services for a child. And then just kind of navigating along. This is probably long-winded, but I was in Katrina. And so as someone who then had a life disruption to that extent. And so I feel like, I don't know, I feel very passionate about the fact that I showed up going back to school in a psychology degree with hilariously, the only thing I knew is that I did not want to be a counselor. And having people along the way going, you're so silly, you're going to be a great counselor, and kind of guiding me toward that. I just feel like now it's my passion to show up in people's lives when they're confused or when they're not sure in which direction, and see what they're capable of and what their strengths are and where they might can head, and help them kind of find that for themselves. So yeah, I do think sort of that journey sometimes takes twists and turns we don't expect, but then it ignites a passion and an empathy that I don't know that I had at 22, 23, 24, 25.
Yeah, you've practically already like answered what our next question was going to be, which is awesome. But are there any other any or ones that you kind of already shared that you want to expound on, any more of those like impactful moments that really like shift gears for you, shifted that trajectory for what you thought your career was going to look like, what you didn't expect?
Absolutely. I think I've always loved schools and education and all of that sort of, just that part of the work world. But then getting to navigate it and showing up as a lost, confused human trying to navigate the system, all of the people that impacted me as a family member who showed up with empathy and kindness and helped me understand something or helped me find hope in hard situations. And then at Maryville, there's just a plethora of people, from my undergraduate people who just smiled at me when I said I didn't want to be a counselor. And then, Dr. Peter Green, just one day we were talking about my my thesis, and he said, would you please come talk to Dr. Keener with me? And we went and we talked to Dr. Keener, and the next thing I know, we're talking about it, and I'm applying for the program, still in my mind going, I don't know that I want to be a counselor, but okay, like I'm going to explore this, and I'm going to talk to them and ask questions. And then throughout the program, because here I am, I start the program with no intent, and I came in later, and I came in at the very end of my undergraduate. So I didn't really even know the cohort. They all knew each other. They had been through all these classes, and here I am. I just kind of show up on the picture. And so it was really cool to have, Dr. Keener, Dr. Bertolino, Dr. Klein step in and go, you're going to be good at this. Here, let me help guide you. And answer my million questions and all the times that I showed up nervous about it. And then I was very fortunate that my clinical supervisor on site at my long internship, Angie Hoffman, she ended up agreeing to then be my clinical supervisor for licensure. And so just having that same person from the first client session that I had that I was so nervous about all the way till I was a licensed counselor. And even now we remain friends, we remain colleagues. She is still someone that I call when I just need a little input on a situation or I have a question. So yeah, I mean, lots of people. And then in every setting, because I love talking to people and I love questions and I always want to learn. And so in every school I've showed up at, there's been people to guide me and help me understand maybe the special education world a little bit more and the terminologies and the things, or people to help guide me on how to navigate the system of a school district. And yeah, does that answer your question? So I've had lots of great mentors and bosses along the way in every agency, and I still remain in contact with most people that I've worked with, honestly. I think I just always take to heart what Maryville said over and over again: the people you're in school with and the people that you work with are your network. These are your people. And so I just keep that going.
Well, that is heartwarming and also ironic. We mentor moments, and we were sort of like, I mean, you just hit the mentor piece of that, where again, those it was in fact the impactful conversations you had with people, or that reinforcing or seeing the unpolished talent or unrealized talent, and now you have that chance and to give back and sort of ignite the next generation of counselors as well.
Well, and I was just thinking that too, like the amount of like newer therapists that are entering the field that feel so unsure of themselves. It must be nice to hear that from somebody that's got a decade under their belt say the same thing and say like, oh, I didn't think I was going to be a therapist. I didn't want to be a therapist. That's reassuring to hear.
I hope so. I mean, that's one of the things that authentically I always shared in the start of an internship class was my story and how it came to be and how nervous I was and all the different steps along the way. And my hope in being authentic was just to say, it's okay. Like, it's okay. It will keep you, hopefully, right? It will keep you searching for different techniques that make you feel more confident, and it will hopefully keep you connecting and making sure you're checking in with clients along the way to make sure that it is having an impact on them.
I know you probably, I don't know if you can answer this because we sort of been talking about it, but we'll ask and we'll see what you say. So are there things in your career that surprised you?
I mean, the whole thing.
Right. That's what I'm saying. You could have already answered it. So besides the whole thing, besides becoming a counselor, but maybe once you embraced it, or was there,
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great question. So I always laughingly say, like, I do the things scared, right? Like, I was so afraid, and I went, I mean, okay, I'll go talk to Dr. Keener. Okay, I'll apply for this degree. Okay, I'll start this. And then as I got out, like, each job has had like a little bit of nervousness, like, oh, okay, I can do this. And I take on a little bit more, maybe, bigger roles each time. When I first decided to come and teach at Maryville, I was so nervous. It was so different than what I was doing. And I had just gotten super comfortable in my ability to do this. And I was like, all right, I'll try this new thing. And then I loved it. Like, it was such a great, fun experience. And I loved being that part. I remember being so nervous when I first started training to do the youth mental health first aid classes. So nervous, because it was just so different than, it wasn't maybe small classes, it was big classes, and it was 8 hours worth of material, and it was just very different. And I love it. And so I guess maybe that's it. Like, each little thing that's new or different that I try, I get a little nervous about, because it's something that I didn't see myself necessarily doing. Like, this is going to seem hilarious, but I decided not to take public speaking in college. I tested out because I am scared of public speaking, which now seems really hilarious because I enjoy doing it. Like, I give presentations at work, and I do, have taught and done all those things. So yeah, that was a very lot of words. Did it make sense?
Those were the best words ever.
All right.
No, I think, again, without knowing what your sort of mentor moment is to share, now maybe you have two, because I heard one there that when we feel comfortable, perhaps that's the time to then risk, or to push yourself, or to stretch, or maybe you don't know you feel comfortable, but just stretching can be a good thing. So
yeah. I mean, I think that. I mean, I think sometimes it's just leaning in and trusting yourself, and trusting that the people that you surround yourself with, your mentors, are guiding you. Choose your mentors well, I guess, right? We don't want people guiding us into things that we will be terrible at, but choose your circle well, so that you can say, hey, I'm interested in this. Do you think I'd be good at this? Tell me a little bit more about it. And then, yeah, sometimes just trying the thing that's scary that you're interested in, just to see.
So what would you say you do outside of work? Outside of, I mean, it sounds like you're wearing many hats. So when you're not wearing one of those many hats, what are you typically doing?
Yeah, I mean, sleeping. No,
Right.
sometimes, but I enjoy, like, I'm an avid reader. I love reading. Because I drive a lot now, I have taken to audiobooks, because then I can at least listen to the book. I love hiking, though locally. I have not been on a large mountainous hike, but I like being out in nature and in the quiet and the peacefulness of it. I have two sons who are now 21 and 25, and amazingly, they still like hanging out with me. And so spending time with them is a treasure. Family, friends, that kind of stuff. I love to cook. Love to cook. Yeah.
Well, again, we asked this question just because we want to make sure everybody, has, I don't like the word life balance, but just that there's other things to fulfill us, I guess. So it's good that we can share those things. So thank you for letting us in a little bit more.
I was thinking, can I throw a curveball real quick?
Oh my gosh.
Sounds
I don't have to
amazing.
hit it, so go right ahead.
It's not on our list, and it's not meant to be like negative either. I just always like to see like two sides of the coin. So you had shared like those moments in which you tried something that you didn't think that you'd like, and you ended up liking it. Have there ever been things in your career, opportunities that you have tried and you realize, oh, I actually don't like this, and maybe my gut was telling me something, like, and how did you make those connections? Or
How did you know?
Yeah.
That's a really good question. So I had one particular job, and here's the thing about the job is that I loved the mission. I loved the work. I loved the clinical work. I loved the agency. I loved the people I worked with. And it was a residential facility. And so I did not think about how, for me as a single parent, and at the time my boys were, I think, middle school and high school. And so they needed me a lot. I had a lot of home responsibilities, and I didn't really stop. I was so excited about the mission, and I still am impassioned when I think about it. You can see me smiling. I really enjoyed it, but I didn't think about how that particular 24-hour-a-day sort of role would affect work-life balance. And so though I'm still passionate, I'm still friends with the person who now has my role there. She's also a Maryville graduate. I still am connected, and I still feel very passionate. It just wasn't a fit. And so there was a point at which I realized, like, I couldn't continue being whole in all parts of my life and doing that particular job. I could still be passionate about the cause, and I could still love all of the things that I loved about it. But for me, it wasn't a good fit. And I guess the other question is, yeah, I mean, I would hope that I would get some sort of feedback if I stepped out on a limb and I was not excelling at it. I hope that I get feedback and that I'm paying attention and reflective enough to catch it.
Well, I appreciate that it's not all black and white, right? That you can still like the mission, enjoy the organization, and still see that it's not a great fit, and that it can be sort of in this gray area.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the important thing. Like, sometimes it really is about the things outside of the job. Sometimes it really is, am I still the best mom I can be? Am I still able to take care of myself and my needs and show up and be what I need to be for the job and for the people that I'm serving and the people that I am providing therapy for? Am I present for them? Am I present at home? So, yeah.
Well, Heather,
Yeah.
you have successfully made it to the end.
All right.
Now you get to share your mentor moment, something that you want to sort of a gift that you're giving to our listeners.
Okay. All right. I love any sentence that has brilliant and then something I'm going to say. I think that is cute. Let's see. I mean, my favorite quote, and I have it on my email, is courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, I will try again tomorrow. I think that is, for me, like a big thing. Like, sometimes you just show up and you do your very best, and that's courageous. It doesn't have to be a loud, boisterous courage. It can just be a quiet perseverance along the way. And then I have another one, which is somewhere behind me. Let's see, the butterflies. It says, butterflies can't see their wings. They can't see how truly beautiful they are, but everyone else can. And I feel like I'm passionate about showing up and seeing the potential and the beauty in people, even if their behaviors are not in a positive place in this moment, or their life is, not how they want it to be. Like, I love that I get to show up and that people, for some wonderful reason, trust me with their stories and trust me into their hardest moments, their darkest places, and let me help sort through it and help them find their strength and their beauty. And yeah. And then I'm thinking, like, I'm very corny. So that is also just me. That is just me.
I would say that it's just you. It's not corny. It's just you. It was awesome. Both quotes were, right in the heart there. I could see Brayton nodding and thinking. I know his facial expressions pretty well now, and that impacted him.
Well, I'm also thinking, because that sounds something similar to what I've talked to my clients about, especially whenever they're being like really hard on themselves or having a really hard time, like maybe being strength based at all. It's like, well, you showed up, so what got you out of bed? How did you show up in my office? Like, even that is a win. And then like applying it to ourselves can be difficult, but yeah, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, and I guess my other big thing is, I hope that I never get over the honor of feeling just like it's such a privilege when someone lets you in, when they just trust you and they let you see all those pieces. And I just feel like, I hope that I never get past that, just feeling so incredible and so cherished. Like, that is a space that, I don't know, I just want to always do my best to honor that and to show up and be present and help them along the way.
Heather, thank you for letting us in, spending this time with us. I know our listeners will benefit from this episode, so thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Mentor Moments. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple, or anywhere that you're listening to this podcast. Be sure to follow us at Mentor Moments on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And we will see you on the next episode of Mentor Moments.
Are you ready for a career that makes a difference in your community? Consider becoming a counselor with Missouri Vocational Rehabilitation.
Vocational Rehabilitation Counselor helps people who have disabilities find a career path that helps to use their strengths. When people have the supports that they need, it makes anything possible.
I am proud that I'm able to help people change their life and reach for their dream goals.
Discover the change you can make. Visit mvr.mo.gov to get started.